We're starting off with page number 217, the concept of mass manipulation and hegemony as different ways of understanding the production of media content. The concepts of mass manipulation and hegemony. While discussing this, I liked whatever the views were that you all put forward, and they were pretty much in line. One of the important things that I'd wanted everyone to keep in mind and rather mention, which you didn't, was the difference over here in terms of traditional Marxist ideas and the new Marxist ideas. To start off with, when we talk about traditional Marxist ideas, according to traditional Marxists in this context, if you own means of production, you are good enough, or rather, you're in a position to be able to manipulate other people's views, right? If you're, what do you call it, owning means of production, and in this case we're talking about the ownership of media. However, on the other hand, when we speak about, or as we speak about the neo-Marxist perspective, according to the neo-Marxist perspective, this is something I've been bringing in every now and then. According to the neo-Marxist perspective, hegemonic consent plays a very important role. To put it in a more simplistic manner now, ट्रेडिशनल मार्क्सिस्ट ये क्लेम करते हैं कि अगर आप ओन करते हो मींस ऑफ प्रोडक्शन को, इस केस के अंदर मीडिया को, तो आप लोगों को एक मास स्केल पे मैनिपुलेट कर सकते हैं, ठीक है। एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू द न्यू मार्क्सिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव, अगर आपको लोगों का व्यू चेंज करना है तो आपको हेजेमोनिक कॉन्सेंट के थ्रू चेंज करना होगा, राइट। the first thing, the most important thing that everyone should keep in mind, right? That there's a difference in terms of, I mean, there's a variation in terms of how the traditional Marxists see this entire process and how the new Marxists see this entire process. Are we clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, the concepts of mass manipulation and hegemony as different ways of understanding the production of media content, different ways of understanding the production of media content, right? How is it that the media content is produced, right? Now, having a look at what's written over here, traditional Marxism sees the media as a significant ideological institution in capitalist society, a significant ideological institution in capitalist society. In other words, a significant an institution that plays a very significant role in terms of being able to change individuals' ideology, and hence the concept of mass manipulation, right? An important dimension of the media's role is to shape how people think, right? Now, how is it that the media determines how people thinks? The media determines how people think. I mean, the this manipulation process has to do with the nature, the extent, and the type of information on which they make judgments. Now, as we see it, what usually happens is the way people come up to a conclusion has a very important role. I mean, the media has a very important role to play over there. And don't you think the nature of content that is shown to the individuals, it's the media that decides that, right? What is to be shown, what is not to be shown. Okay, I'll just keep the pluralist Marxist points at what do you call it, at a side for now. प्लूरलिस्ट कुछ और क्लेम करते हैं, मार्क्सिस्ट कुछ और क्लेम करते हैं, बट नॉन द लेस मीडिया पे दिखाना क्या है, the nature, the extent, if there's any XYZ event, to what extent is it being what do you call it, shown on the media, if it's a television, and the type of information, right? Though the nature, the extent, and the type of information on which people make judgments, right? Now, people make judgments on the basis of the information that is being provided to them, and the information that is being provided to them is determined by the media, right? Owners and controllers. Okay, now mind it, we're discussing all of this under the heading of traditional Marxism so far, right? Owners and controllers use the media as a tool to influence public opinion. That is through mass manipulation. They promote a particular ideological worldview that clearly or explicitly favors the interests of the ruling class. This is what the traditional Marxists believe in. If we move on and discuss this through another dimension. A second dimension to this role is a promotion and policing of the values of capitalist society. Those values, those whose views reflect the interests of the owners, are given access to the media. Of course, you know what? The people, I mean, you wouldn't, a particular television channel, let me give you an example over here. If you talk about any XYZ particular television channel, let's talk about GOTV over here. If there's someone whose views are against what the basic ideology is that GOTV carries, do you think उस बंदे को बुला के आप इंटरव्यू करेंगे अपने शो के ऊपर? क्या GOTV उसको इंटरव्यू करेगी? क्या उसको लाइव लेके जाएगी? Probably not. They wouldn't do that because they wouldn't want that person to say something out loud that is not in line with their own values. Would you agree to this?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Those whose views reflect the interests of owners are given access to the media. Those with an alternative or contradictory value view are generally denied access in this case. Ideas that are helpful to a ruling class are continually highlighted and promoted, with while opposing views are ignored, misrepresented, and marginalized. So let's keep it very simple. Back to square one. We spoke about two different perspectives over here. We spoke about rather a variation on Marxist perspective. We spoke about the traditional Marxist perspective and we spoke about the new Marxist perspective, right? What I had said was, according to the traditional Marxist perspective, mass manipulation can be done merely because the owners, they own that particular media channel. Okay, how is that to be done? The ideas that promote the capitalist economic system, उनको आप बार बार दिखाते रहते हो लोगों को, राइट? वो लोग या वो आइडियाज जो ट्रेडिशनल जो कि कैपिटलिस्ट इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम के खिलाफ जा रहे हैं, दे सिंपली डिनाई देम एक्सेस, राइट? दे वुड बी, you wouldn't really see people talking about them, right? Ideas that are helpful to a ruling class are continually highlighted and promoted, while opposing views are ignored, misrepresented, or marginalized. Oppositional ideas are represented in ways that suggest that they are not to be taken seriously. Marginalized social groups such as immigrants, now, marginalized social groups such as immigrants, minorities, and the unemployed are represented as the cause of social problem. Again, this is a nice one. Let's keep in mind the concept of divide and rule. You know what? If I remind you all about the traditional Marxist idea about how there would eventually be a revolution that would bring capitalism to an end, remember what I've been saying what all along is, according to the Marxist perspective, a time would come when all the workers would stand up, unite together, and bring in a revolution. Remember, unity in this case is pretty important. Unity plays a very vital role over here. For there to be a revolution, the working class needs to stand up together. The question is, अगर हम उस working class को साथ होने ही नहीं देते, right? If there is no unity amongst the working class, if, like I said, let's keep in mind the idea of divide and rule over here. Let the poor fight against each other. Let's create divisions between them. I'm not saying this. According to the Marxists, the bourgeois do this. This is what they believe in. The bourgeois make a point that the bourgeois make a point that the working class, the proletariats, a layman, common people, they do not get united. They do not stand up together. Now, this can be done through through numerous ways. One of which would be keep them divided amongst each other. For instance, if we talk about individuals from different ethnicities, if you keep on telling white people that there's a high unemployment rate amongst them because there are so many immigrants around, do you think they'd like members from ethnic minorities? They wouldn't, right? One. Number two, on the other hand, if you keep on telling black people that they have such a high unemployment rate because the blacks wouldn't let them get their jobs, again, this doesn't really work in the favor of the poor people, right? So the blaming or scapegoating is designed to create divisions. I'm assuming everyone sitting where knows what the word scapegoating means, right? In a very typical desi manner, bali ka bakra banana, or in other words, blaming someone for something that they're not really responsible for, right? This blaming or scapegoating is designed to create divisions within and between groups, and to deflect the blame for social problems away from the behavior of the ruling class. Bang, there we go. According to the Marxist perspective, the problems that are there in the society because of the rich ruling elite, you simply show them in a manner that to a common man it looks like these problems are there in a society because of these poor people. Let them fight amongst each other, right? In order, you know what, if and the media can very well play this role. इतनी आसानी से the media can very well play this role. They keep on, I mean, they could simply ignore a mess up that has been there because of the rich, and keep on showing time and again, over and over again, a problem. Let's just say a tiny problem. Let's The media does have the capacity to show it in an over exaggerated manner, ताकि सोसाइटी के जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, the problems that are there in the society because of the rich, you could cover them, right? And instead blame the poor people. I hope you get this.
Yes, sir.
Right now,
Yes, yes.
ahead, the role of the media therefore is to encourage people to accept social and economic inequality as normal and right. So summing it up, according to this particular paragraph over here, towards the end, this eventually leads to the poor people, a common man, a layman, accepting that if there's social economic inequality, if there's social inequality in the society, it is how it is supposed to be like. In other words, legitimizing economic inequality. In other words, covering up the mess that has been made by the rich in deliberately doing that, so that no one pinpoints, or no one pinpoints them, or no one raises questions on them. We get this, right?
Yes, sir.
Right now, all of this, we discussed all of this on under the heading of traditional Marxist perspective, right? Let's move on and discuss this under the neo Marxist perspective, right? Remember what I had said was initially towards the beginning, that we need to be able to differentiate, or we need to be able to remind ourselves, okay, okay, fine. When you talk about mass manipulation, it is a pure traditional Marxist concept. However, when we speak about hegemony, hegemony has to do with neo Marxism. We need to remind ourselves about this, right? Now, keeping this in mind, rather, I'd want everyone to just write down this question. I'll give you all a minute to write down this question. Okay. Now that we're done writing down this question and giving this paragraph a little read as well. Now, we spoke about the traditional Marxist ideas over here. Let's move on. Let's hop on discussing the new Marxist ideas. Hegemonic consent. Let's remind ourselves about what hegemony is. In other words, what we're talking about over here is taking consent from people in a manner that whatever you do keeps on seeming right to them, keeps on looking like it's the right or the perfect thing to be done. ठीक है जी? How is it that this can be done? Let's do it from here, and then I'd explain all of this to you in a simplistic manner, right? An alternative neo Marxist way of viewing the production of media content uses the concept of hegemony. From this perspective, the role of the media reflects the complexity of class relationships and interests in contemporary societies. It's very complex. It might apparently look like it's simple, but in reality, according to this, it isn't. It isn't as simple as it apparently looks like, right? So, the media's ideological role is considered in terms of how it creates and sustains a broad political agreement around a set of core values, rather than how it manipulates people's behavior directly. Now, this is where I had taken a start from, right? Remember, the very first thing what I said was we need to keep in mind, we need to be able to differentiate between what the traditional Marxists think about this and what the neo Marxists think about this, right? So, according to the traditional Marxist perspective, they're more concerned about the manipulative nature of media, how the media is directly able to manipulate people's behavior. And in contrast, on the other hand, as we speak about the new Marxist perspective, the new Marxists are more concerned about how the media creates and sustains a political agreement. Number one, you create it, right? Creation might not be too big of an issue, but then being able to sustain it for longer is something that counts, right? So being able to create and sustain a broad political agreement around a set of core values, a broad political agreement around a set of core values that have been initiated and later on maintained by the ruling elite, right, through the media, of course. ठीक है जी. So how is it that the media does that? In this way, the media can reflect a variety of different opinions while simultaneously absorbing critical views that may threaten the stability of the social system. This is a nice one here. You know what? According to the Marxist perspective, neo Marxist perspective, I'm sorry, according to the neo Marxist perspective, you know how you've seen these media organizations at times talk against the system, right? They're not directly talking against the system, they just make the poor, let's make it like this, they just make the poor feel like they are being listened. That's a very, very smart move, I tell you, right? Now, if you make the poor feel like they are being listened, if you make the poor feel like, oh, see, we're here, you have our back, don't you think they feel more confident about you? The confidence in the media would increase, right? Now, keeping this in mind, let me stop it here and give you a tiny little example. You know what? If you're keeping someone hungry, totally, day one, you do not give someone food at all. Day two, you do not give someone food at all. Day three, you do not give someone food at all. Day four, they stand up. Whoever that someone is would be ready to fight against you, right? Option number two, that was option number one. Option number two, day one, you do not really give someone food the entire day. Towards the end, you hand them over an apple, right? Day two, you do that too. Day three, you do that too. Do you know what? The second option that I gave you, in this case, there are fewer chances that that person would stand up and fight against you because you are giving them something at least, right? So, likewise, for there to be a revolution that would bring capitalism to an end, right? For there to be a revolution that would bring capitalism to an end, there has to be, number one, unity amongst the poor. Number two, they need to realize that they're being exploited. However, अगर मीडिया टाइम एंड अगेन स्लोली आपको ऐसा फील कराता रहता है कि आपकी बात सुनी जा रही है, they create this illusion that you've been listened to, that the media is with you, you would not stand up against them, right? Do you know what? किसी को थोड़ा 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 देते रहो, आपके खिलाफ खड़ा नहीं होगा. रेवोल्यूशन, आप उस रेवोल्यूशन को सप्रेस कर रहे हो, आप उस revolutionary पावर को मार रहे हो उनको थोड़ा थोड़ा दे के. तो at times what happens is, keeping all of this in mind, at times what happens is the media deliberately speaks about stuff that sounds like it's your favor, so that it saves the system from a greater loss. I repeat, so that it saves the system from a greater loss. Now, how is it that it is saving the system from a greater loss? It is saving the system from a greater loss because it wouldn't really bring in, because the poor would be kept, like I said, the poor would be kept under impression that the media listens to them, right? And if they are kept under an impression that the media listens to them, they are in a very smart manner, absorbing critical views that may threaten the stability of the social system, right? So the stability of the social system, the stability of the wider economic system, the stability of the capitalist system is maintained because there are certain, because there are a variety of views that the media keeps on showing. It creates an illusion of a wide range of views and tolerance of dissent, but this really only happens within a very narrow range of opinion. According to the hegemonic view, the media's role is to help maintain the status quo by policing and protecting core values. So keeping it in a simplistic manner, अगर थोड़ा 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 आप इलीट क्लास को अपेरेंटली नुकसान पहुंचाते हुए दिखा रहे हो, तो उससे लोगों का ट्रस्ट आपके अंदर बढ़ेगा। एंड गेस व्हाट, लोगों का ट्रस्ट जब आपके अंदर बढ़ेगा तो we studying all of this under the heading of the neo Marxist perspective, that again happens to be the Marxist perspective. And the idea over here is people would not be going against the system then. Do we get this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If there are tiny, toony little changes to be brought in the system, let it be. As long as the wider status quo is maintained. I'm assuming everyone sitting away knows what the term status quo means, a Latin term that refers to how things currently are. And the way things currently are is a capitalist system that works in the favor of the ruling elite, right? अगर आप थोड़ी 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 चीजें ऐसी दिखाते हो लोगों को जिनसे लोगों का भरोसा बढ़ता है आपके ऊपर, इट्स एक्चुअली अ गुड थिंग। इट वर्क्स इन योर फेवर ओनली। I hope everyone understands this, right? Moving on. A key idea here is that the media play a crucial role in creating a consensus that allows people to be socialized into core values. People must be made to accept the values of the society, or if they try to reject them, be powerless to change them, right? So, people, now we keep on talking about this hegemonic consent. The question is, do people really give consent, or are people actually in a position to reject whatever you're offering them? Are they powerful enough to bring in a change? No, they're not. They're just made to believe that all of this is being done for them in their favor, right? How does the media do this now? The media set the agenda for debate. Some things are simply not up for discussion. You do not bring them up for discussion, right? बात तो तब खुलेगी ना जब when things will be brought in for discussion. Do not bring them up for discussion. Have TV shows, have different specialists on board, have different analysts on board. Just make a point that whatever they're talking about, whatever is being discussed, is according to their agenda. Whatever is not according to their agenda or according to the media organization's agenda, do not bring it up for discussion at all. For example, no major media corporation discusses economic organization anything other than capitalist terms. So remember, you know what, they talk about anything. They talk about things being wrong here, and here. But have you realized no one talks about bringing the capitalist system to an end? Have you heard of, on any media organization or on any major media organization, have you ever heard people talking about bringing in the capitalist system to an end? Probably not, right? So, while ensuring that certain core values are not questioned or are seen as inevitable, the media also steer public opinion in particular ways. They're steering, you know what a steering does when you're driving a car, right? So, it steers public opinion in particular ways. Just as advertisers try to convince people to buy one product rather than another, so do the media through preferred reading. Now, how is this preferred reading done? This preferred reading is done by using this concept of a discourse. Remember John Fiske, a discourse: show people the world the way you want to show them, right? Preferred reading through bulletins, through what do you call it, or the things that you have on newspapers, the headlines that you have on newspaper, right? You're giving meaning to an entire event, right? You're giving meaning to an entire event. You are interpreting a particular event for the poor, I mean, for the masses in this case. So you're steering the way they think. You're steering the way like you do on a steering wheel. You turn left, the car vehicle moves towards the left. You turn it towards the right, the vehicle moves towards the right. उसी तरीके से preferred reading के through, bulletins के through, headlines के through, captions get through, titles get through. The media, they make a point that they see the world the way that you see the world the way the media wants you to see it. Right now, one way this is achieved through the use of headlines and subheadings, which effectively tell the reader how they should interpret an article. Another way is to use captions to tell an audience what a picture means. Do we all understand this?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Are we all clear with this?
G, sir.
This entire thing?
Yes, sir.
This entire thing. No one has any question at all.
No question, sir.
Right. I hope that helped.